CZ USA has recently announced the new TS2 for the US market. That's short for Tactical Sport 2. As the number 2 implies, there was a predecessor simply called the Tactical Sport, which was discontinued a few years back. I just did a full review on the TS2 for Guns America, so I'm not going to rehash much of that information. I'll provide links to the written and the video review and would encourage you to check those out to learn more. This video is about the obvious comparison to the sister product from CZ, the Tactical Sport Orange, or TSO. One might wonder if the TS2 is meant to replace the TSO or another of CZ's competition pistols. While they appear nearly identical to the casual observer, there's actually a number of significant differences. And for that reason, I say no, I doubt the TS2 is replacing anything other than the original and now extinct TS. Let's first compare by the numbers, just based on specifications and a few of my own measurements. Both of these pistols are 9mm. The TSO is also available in 40 Smith & Wesson, but the TS2 is currently made only in 9mm. Both guns' barrels are approximately 5¼ inches, although the specs indicate a 50 thousandths difference favoring the TS2. Overall length of both guns is identical at 8.86 inches. The height differs by 1/10 of an inch, making the TSO just a tad bit taller. This next one was kind of surprising to me. The TS2 weighs a full ounce more than the TSO, even though the frame's dust cover area seems like it would be lighter, just the way it's shaped. But the TS2 tips the scale at 48½ ounces compared to 47½ ounces for the TSO. Both guns are single action only. The straight triggers are nearly identical, but the TSO trigger shoe has vertical grooves for grip and the TS2 trigger is smooth. And both triggers are made of polymer. The TS2 trigger is adjustable only for over travel, whereas the TSO trigger is adjustable for both pre-travel and over travel. The sights look very similar in shape and size, but they're not exactly the same. The TSO sights are adjustable, while the TS2 sights are fixed. Both have a black rear sight with anti-glare serrations, and both are nicely sized, though they do bear a slightly different shape when viewed straight from the back. The front sights are both fiber optic with red filament, but the TS2 sight presents a slightly larger red dot to the user's eye. However, because the way fiber optics are melted into place, this could vary from gun to gun. The frames of both guns are solid steel construction, and while at first glance they look nearly identical, the more carefully you look, the more different they are. The back straps are similar, but slightly differently shaped. The trigger guard of the TSO is smaller and oval shaped, where the TS2 trigger guard has been squared off to allow more room, and both are very nicely undercut. As mentioned, the dust cover area of the TSO is deeper and fully rounded, while the TS2 has been squared off at the bottom, and both of those dust covers are full length. In short, the TS2 frame is closer to the traditional CZ75 design, and why wouldn't it be? It does bear that name, while the TS2 is much more like the Shadow 2 in design. These differences also apply to the slides. Both pistols are provided with 3 magazines. The capacity of these feeding devices might be limited by local infringements, but the standard capacity is 20 rounds. The magazines are also compatible one with another, and while the base plates are very different, that difference does not affect their function and interchangeability. Each gun is equipped with a set of thin aluminum grips. The standard grips on the TSO are orange because the O is for orange, and it would be kind of stupid if they were a different color. The TS2 is shipping with aqua blue colored grips. Again, while very similar, they are not exact and they're not interchangeable. The TS2 comes in at 1.57 inches with the widest point being a tie between the ambidextrous thumb safety and the much extended magazine release button. The trigger pull is something to write home about with both of these pistols. And because I know this is a very, very important point to a lot of folks, here is actual footage of the measurements being taken. A big part of what you're paying for when you buy a gun like the CZ TS2 or the CZ TSO is this very incredible single action only trigger. It's hard to describe beyond just numerical terms, but looking at it from a tactile perspective, the trigger it's so light and crisp. It's so easy to get a surprise break with, and the reset is so short and has good tactile response that, you know, once you get your finger used to this particular trigger, you can run it so fast. You can just empty a magazine in seconds. It really is that kind of trigger, and that is the kind of trigger that competition shooters demand, especially action pistol type competition shooters. But let's not rule out the bullseye guys too, because obviously the less pressure you have to put on the trigger, the less your gun is going to move, the less your sights are going to stray off of that dead center of the target. Alright, so let's take a look at each of these. I have reported them previously independently. They are both sub 2-pound triggers, but let's take a look at each one. First the TSO, and right now we're getting 1 pound 14 ounces, so 2 ounces shy of 2 pounds. And keep in mind, usually when I do this I'll do an average, but in this case just going to do the one for demonstration purposes. 1 pound 12.4 ounces. Okay, so you can see that on this particular day, at this particular moment in time, with one pull each, the TS2 is just a tiny bit lighter. Anybody who can feel the difference between 1 pound 14 ounces and 1 pound 12.4 ounces with their finger while they're shooting the gun is a better trigger diva than I am. And I'm sure there are guys out there who can. But that is virtually imperceptible. And again, that's one measurement at one moment in time on this particular day. But you get the idea. And the idea is that both of these guns have amazing single action triggers, and they're both giving you that same trigger, that same quality. Okay, nothing scientific by any means, but let's just see if there's one of these two pistols that I happen to shoot better. They are so identical, but yet there are some subtle differences between the two. One of the things that is almost exactly the same, and that is the sight picture. Not enough differences to really make any difference, so I'm just curious to see if I happen to shoot one better than the other. And of course they both have that same absolutely amazing sub 2 pound single action hammer fired trigger. So actually the trigger itself is not hammer fired. That would be kind of weird. So as I said, the official Just an Opinion channel optics planet target is 13 yards downrange. You know, we throw the word surprise break around a lot in the, especially when we're doing instruction and stuff. But I'm here to tell you guys, you can get a surprise break a whole lot more often than you're expecting to with one of these. Not to go off on a tangent by any means, but this is a good opportunity. I always say teach when you have the opportunity to teach. So that is because these triggers are so light and so crisp, and you can have that surprise break, which is a good thing under the right circumstances. You want to make sure that you do have the right circumstances, and that means you don't put your finger anywhere near that trigger until your sights are on your target. And that way, it doesn't matter if it was a, oops, I didn't mean for it to go off yet. It doesn't matter. You were pointed at the target. Okay? So, all right, that was my free nagging instruction tip for the day. So anyway, if you're new shooters out there, that's important for you to know. All right, back to it. The new Tactical Sport 2, TS2 from CZ. Beautiful. Beautiful, man. Both of these guns are just so nice to shoot. I can't tell from here, but it looks like the group may be a little more centered from the TS2. Yeah. Let's put it on the table and measure it. Okay, I measured both of these groups, and starting with the TSO up top, it measured 2.59 inches. That's for the entire 10 rounds at 13 yards offhand. The TS2 on the lower target, 2.52 inches for all 10 rounds. Same distance, of course, same shooter. So 2.59 versus 2.52, I'm going to have to call that identical. So group placement, slightly different. Group size is virtually identical. Identical. In the immortal words of Leonard Skinner, what song is it you want to hear? Ah, the song of my people. Well, let's do it. The Just an Opinion Grip Index, for those of you who track that particular metric, favors the new TS2 a bit if you have smaller hands, at 3.29 versus 3.44 for the TSO. It's amazing, as identical as they look, there really is that much difference. And of course, there is a price difference between the two. The TS2 is considered the entry-level tactical sports pistol from CZ with an MSRP of $1,699. The TSO comes with a bit more to offer for many shooters, and it lists at $1,949. Because they are single-action only pistols, both do have manual safeties. They are ambidextrous and identical on both of the guns. The right-handed shooter, though, does have the advantage, but the southpaw at least has a control that is standard and available. Both guns have an aluminum magwell, which appears to be the exact same part, but the devil's in the details, and the careful observer will see that the TSO magwell is better blended together with the frame than is the TS2. There are some additional differences between the TSO and the TS2 on the inside of the guns. Both are built on the legendary CZ75 design, with the TSO being more faithful to that design, whereas the TS2 adopts the more modern flavoring seen in the Shadow 2 and its variants. The TSO has a great deal of additional honing of friction parts, This is more noticeable in the slide, where not only have the rails been honed to a near polished finish, but also the upper inside of the slide that receives the barrel hood and lugs is a smooth and shiny surface. This degree of extra preparation is clearly expensive to manufacture, and it's not present in the less expensive TS2 model. One notable difference for me, and perhaps for you too, is the magazine release button. The current model of the TSO has CZ's modern, large, rectangular magazine release. The button is adjustable for angle as well. It is checkered, and it's made of milled aluminum. The TS2 has a magazine release button that is of the same traditional shape and size on the face as has been standard on CZ pistols for years. The difference is that it has been greatly extended. In fact, it extends as far from the frame on the left side of the gun as the safety lever does. It's good for operating the control with little or no shift to your grip, but for me, it also tends to dig into the heel of my palm on the support hand and become quickly painful when I'm shooting. Both guns have a top quality fit and finish. Clearly there is pride taken in the work and the machining and the assembly of these guns, and it shows. Both guns have excellent checkered surfaces to stick your hands in place for a long and active course of fire. Last but not least is the conspicuous thumb rest or gas pedal on the TSO. Whether or not this accessory is a value is going to be up to each individual. However, it is part of the TSO, and it's not included with the TS2. I hope this comparison of two very fine production handguns from the Czech Republic has provided you with some useful information, maybe answered a few questions, and hopefully even entertained you a little bit. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my Patreon supporters for their loyal support. See you again soon.